The silver dart of the escape pod carved a burning path through Terran atmosphere, trailing smoke and debris as it plunged toward the Montana wilderness. Inside, Commander Ravik Orlov gripped the manual controls, his knuckles white with strain. A good landing was no longer possible. Survival was the best he could hope for. Behind him, the alien ambassador lay unconscious, her iridescent blue-violet skin ashen from blood loss. Ambassador Vilara Nivix of the Lumidian Collective had been entrusted to his care during the peace summit, and now they were plummeting to Earth after a terrorist attack on the orbital station. "Hold on, Ambassador," Ravik muttered, though she couldn't hear him. "We're going to make it." The pod smashed through a stand of pines before slamming into rocky ground, the impact throwing Ravik against his restraints. When the spinning stopped, and the emergency lights flickered on, he assessed the damage. The pod was a total loss, communications dead. Worse, Ambassador Nivix's wound had reopened, blue-tinged fluid seeping from her abdomen. Outside, snow was falling, a late spring storm. In the mountains, they were hundreds of miles from the nearest outpost, and the ambassador wouldn't survive without immediate help. Ravik's training took over. He carefully extracted the alien diplomat from her crash webbing, noting the strange anatomical differences that made her both fragile and resilient in ways humans were not. The Lumidians were the first alien species humanity had encountered with compatible biochemistry. They could breathe Earth's air and tolerate its gravity, though their physiology remained largely mysterious. In the week-long diplomatic summit, Ambassador Nivix had been reserved but hopeful about the future alliance between their peoples. Now, her life rested in his hands. Ravik gathered the emergency supplies, a medical kit, thermal blankets, rations, and a portable shelter. Using his military training, he fashioned a travois from the pod's debris and secured the ambassador to it. The nearest human settlement was at least a 3-day trek through mountain terrain. "You're my mission now," he told her unconscious form, as he began the arduous journey. Night fell quickly in the mountains. Ravik established camp in the shelter of a rocky overhang, erecting the thermal tent and starting a small fire. Inside the tent, he examined the ambassador's wound more carefully. The injury looked like nothing in his medical training. Lumidian anatomy consisted of a complex network of crystalline structures intertwined with organic tissue. The wound was seeping a luminescent fluid, likely their equivalent of blood, and the damaged tissue emitted faint pulses of light. Following instinct rather than protocol, Ravik cleaned the wound as best he could and applied a regenerative medical gel from his kit. To his surprise, the gel reacted with the ambassador's tissues, forming a translucent membrane that seemed to stabilize her condition. Ambassador Nivix's eyes fluttered open, all 4 of them, arranged in a diamond pattern on her face. They were prismatic, refracting light in complex patterns that somehow conveyed emotion. "Commander Orlov," she spoke, her voice melodic despite her weakness. "You saved me." "We're not safe yet, Ambassador. We're stranded in wilderness territory. I need to get you to proper medical care." "My people, will they know?" "The attack was public. Search parties will be looking, but in this terrain, they might not find us quickly." He hesitated. "Your wound. I've done what I can, but I don't understand your physiology." She lifted a 6-fingered hand to the membrane over her injury. "You've done something remarkable. The neural bond has already begun." Her eyes pulsed with golden light. "Among my people, such a bond is sacred." "Neural bond?" Ravik asked, confused. "Sleep now, Commander," Ambassador Nivix said, her voice fading. "We will speak more when I am stronger. The connection has already begun." As she drifted back to unconsciousness, Ravik noticed a strange warmth spreading from his fingertips that had applied the gel. The skin there glowed faintly with the same luminescence as the ambassador's blood. He stared at his hands in wonder and apprehension, suddenly aware that in saving her life, he may have crossed a boundary neither species had anticipated. Dawn broke with an eerie silence. The mountainside, blanketed in fresh snow, Ravik awoke with a start, immediately checking on Ambassador Nivix. Her condition had improved overnight, the wound sealed beneath the strange membrane, her skin regaining its vibrant hue. More concerning were the changes to his own body. Thin, luminescent lines traced the veins in his hands and forearms, pulsing with the same rhythm as the ambassador's breathing. When he touched her wound to check the healing, both their skins glowed in synchronized patterns. The neural bond grows, stronger, Ambassador Nivix said, her voice steadier than the previous night. All four eyes focused on him with unsettling intensity. I can sense your confusion, Commander. What's happening to me? To us? Ravik asked, trying to keep the alarm from his voice. Our life energies have begun to synchronize. Among Lumidians, this occurs rarely, only between those with exceptional biological compatibility. She shifted, sitting up with surprising strength. Had I known our species could form such bonds, I would have warned you. The gel you applied contained your genetic material, skin cells, perhaps a drop of blood. It catalyzed the process. Ravik paced the small confines of the shelter. Can it be reversed? Would you want that? She asked. The bond saved my life. Without it, I would have died in the night. He paused, considering. As a military commander assigned to diplomatic duty, he'd been briefed on maintaining professional boundaries with the alien representatives. Nothing in his training had prepared him for this intimate biological connection. We need to focus on survival now, he said finally. Can you travel? The bond gives me strength. Your strength. Ambassador Nivix rose to her full height, nearly 7 feet tall, her willowy frame belying surprising resilience. I can travel. They broke camp, continuing their trek through the snow-laden forest. As they walked, Ravik felt a strange doubling of sensations. The cold air against his skin, but also a heightened sensitivity to light and vibration that must have come from Nivix's senses. Your people will consider this a violation of protocol, Nivix observed as they navigated a steep slope. Yours won't? My people will view it as I do, a profound development that transcends diplomatic boundaries. She paused, touching a tree trunk with reverent curiosity. We Lumidians believe connections between sentient beings follow patterns beyond rational understanding. That we formed this bond suggests greater purpose. Ravik remained skeptical, but couldn't deny the growing awareness of her thoughts and emotions bleeding into his consciousness. By midday, he could anticipate her movements before she made them, and she seemed equally attuned to his needs. They made better progress than he'd expected, covering nearly 15 miles of difficult terrain. As they set up camp for the second night, Ravik felt a strange pressure building at the base of his skull, a presence that wasn't his own. What am I feeling? He asked as they huddled near the fire. My consciousness expanding into yours, Nivix explained. The neural bond creates shared mental architecture. I cannot access your memories without permission, but emotional states flow freely. And what are you feeling right now? Her inner eyelids flickered, the Lumidian equivalent of contemplation, gratitude, curiosity, and something my people rarely experience, attraction to difference. She reached out, touching his face with cool fingers. Humans and Lumidians evolved in separate star systems, yet here we are, biologically compatible in ways neither of our sciences predicted. That night, as they lay side by side for warmth, Ravik dreamed in colors he'd never seen before, spectrums, beyond human perception. He experienced memories that weren't his own, crystalline cities suspended in perpetual twilight, ceremonies where Lumidians shared consciousness through elaborate dances of light. He awoke to find Nivix studying him, her eyes pulsing with rapid patterns. Your dreams were beautiful, she whispered. I've never experienced human imagination before. You saw my dreams, and you saw mine. She placed a hand over his heart. The bond grows faster than I anticipated. By tomorrow, we will be fully synchronized. What does that mean? Her expression shifted in a way he was beginning to recognize as profound significance. It means, Commander Orlov, that what happens to one of us happens to both, including... She hesitated. Reproduction. Reproduction? Ravik sat up abruptly. That's not possible. We're different species. The universe is vastly more creative than our limited sciences, Ambassador Nivik said. The bond has already begun rewriting portions of our genetic code where compatibility exists. Before Ravik could respond, a distant sound echoed through the mountains, the unmistakable hum of search aircraft. The rescue team found them at dawn on the third day, a joint human-Lumidian expedition that landed in a clearing half a mile from their camp. Ravik had mixed feelings about their timely rescue. Part of him, the rational, duty-bound soldier, was relieved. Another part, growing stronger by the hour, felt a strange reluctance to return to civilization and the complications it would bring. Commander Orlov, the human medic said, eyeing the luminescent patterns visible beneath his skin. You're glowing. Side effect of the emergency medical treatment, Ravik replied vaguely. He and Nivix had agreed to keep the full nature of their bond private until they understood its... The Lumidian representatives approached Ambassador Nivix with reverent caution, speaking in their native language. A complex symphony of tones and light patterns. From Nivix's emotional response, which Ravik could now feel as clearly as his own, he sensed their shock and fascination. During the flight to the nearest medical facility, a specialized xenobiology research center in Denver, Ravik and Nivix were separated for examination. The distance between them created a physical discomfort that grew more intense with each passing mile. Your cellular structure is showing unprecedented changes, Dr. Ilara Voss told him as she examined the scans. These patterns here, she pointed, to glowing filaments spreading through his nervous system. They're reminiscent of Lumidian neural architecture, but perfectly integrated with your human physiology. Frankly, it should be impossible. Will it harm me? Ravik asked, though he already knew the answer through his connection to Nivix. Quite the opposite. Your cellular regeneration has accelerated by 300%. Your neural efficiency has nearly doubled. Dr. Voss lowered her voice. Commander, I need to know exactly what happened out there. Before he could formulate a response, the door slid open. A stern-faced military official entered, followed by two Lumidian dignitaries. Commander Orlov, the official, General Harding, said, You're being reassigned effective immediately. This incident has been classified at the highest levels. Where's Ambassador Nivix? Ravik demanded, feeling her distress through their bond. The ambassador is being escorted back to the Lumidian delegation, General Harding replied. Both of you will undergo extensive testing to understand what's happened. The peace negotiations have been suspended pending results. One of the Lumidian dignitaries stepped forward, an elder named Tharix whose crystalline adornment suggested high rank. Commander, we must know the exact nature of the bond you share with Ambassador Nivix. Such connections are sacred among our people, typically, formed only between life-bonded pairs. Life-bonded? What your people might call marriage, though much deeper, Tharix explained. The sharing of genetic material, consciousness, and potentially offspring. General Harding's expression hardened. Offspring? Are you suggesting? I'm suggesting nothing, Tharix interrupted. I am stating a biological possibility that our scientists are now investigating. If Commander Orlov and Ambassador Nivix have formed a true neural bond, their genetic structures may have achieved compatibility. This would represent an evolutionary leap of unprecedented significance. The implications hit Ravik with stunning force. Through their connection, he felt Nivix's confirmation and something more. A tiny spark of energy, distinct from either of them, growing within the shared field of their bond. I need to see her, Ravik said, rising from the examination table. That's not possible right now, General Harding stated firmly. The diplomatic implications. With respect, General, Ravik interrupted, feeling strength from Nivix flowing into him. I wasn't asking permission. The lights in the medical facility flickered as Ravik focused his thoughts. Through their bond, he and Nivik synchronized their actions. In her separate examination room, she disabled the security protocols while he distracted the staff. Within minutes, alarms blared throughout the facility. Taking advantage of the confusion, Ravik slipped past the guards. He moved with newfound awareness, sensing Nivik's location as clearly as if he could see her. They met at a service corridor, her tall form materializing from the shadows. "They will not separate us," she said, taking his hands. Where their skin touched, light bloomed. "They're afraid," Ravik replied. "And truthfully, so am I. What you're suggesting, reproduction between our species, it changes everything." "It has already begun," Nivik said, guiding his hand to rest against her abdomen. Through their bond he felt it, the distinct presence of new life, neither fully human nor Lumidian, but something unprecedented. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "The neural bond has reconfigured portions of our genetic code, creating compatibility where none existed. But more importantly," her eyes pulsed with intense light, "it has awakened ancient evolutionary pathways. In both our species, adaptability mechanisms encoded in our deepest genetic memory. As security forces converged on their location, Ravik made a decision that would change the course of both their civilizations. "We need to protect the child," he said, "and we need to show both our peoples that this isn't a threat, but an opportunity." Nivik's expression shifted into what he now recognized as a smile. "Then we must stand together, as the first of a new kind of family." The diplomatic crisis that erupted following Ravik and Nivik's escape from the medical facility dominated global headlines. For weeks, human-alien hybrid pregnancy confirmed blared across news feeds, accompanied by enhanced images of the luminescent patterns now covering both their bodies. They had found sanctuary in an unexpected place, a remote scientific outpost in the Icelandic highlands, operated by an independent coalition of human and Lumidian researchers. Dr. Kiros Vanek, the facility's founder, had offered them protection in exchange for the opportunity to study their unprecedented biological integration. "Your cellular structures are continuing to harmonize," Dr. Vanek explained, displaying three-dimensional holograms of their DNA. "The neural bond has created a third genetic template, neither human nor Lumidian, but a stable hybrid that incorporates elements of both." Ravik studied the swirling patterns of light that represented the life growing within Nivik's. Though only 8 weeks had passed since their crash in the mountains, the pregnancy was progressing at an accelerated rate. "The embryo is developing its own neural network," Dr. Vanek continued. "It's unlike anything we've seen before, a completely new form of sentient life." Nivik rested her elongated fingers against her abdomen, which now showed visible signs of the pregnancy. "The child communicates already," she said, "not in thoughts or words, but in emotions and colors." Ravik could feel it too, pulses of curious awareness flowing through their shared bond, a third consciousness gradually awakening between them. The experience was humbling and terrifying in equal measure. Outside their sanctuary, Earth's political landscape had been transformed by their union. The human and Lumidian governments had established a joint committee to address the implications, though their approaches differed dramatically. Human authorities emphasized containment and study, while the Lumidian collective celebrated what they viewed as an evolutionary breakthrough. Religious groups across Earth were divided, some declaring the hybrid child an abomination, others proclaiming it a divine sign of cosmic unity. Scientific communities worldwide debated the genetic implications, while everyday citizens formed movements either supporting or condemning the unprecedented union. "They're calling it the convergence," Dr. Vanek said, showing them footage of peaceful demonstrations where humans and resident Lumidians stood together. "Your child has become a powerful symbol before it's even born." Ravik watched the screens with mixed emotions. "We never asked for this responsibility." "Few who change history ever do," Nivik replied, her voice carrying the wisdom of her species' 5,000-year spacefaring history. "The timing suggests purpose. Our peoples were heading toward conflict despite diplomatic efforts. Now they must confront the possibility of true integration." Their conversation was interrupted by the facility's security alerts. Satellite imagery showed multiple aircraft approaching their location. Military transports, Dr. Vanek confirmed grimly, both human and Lumidian. It seems our location has been compromised. Ravik's military training took over. How long do we have? 20 minutes, perhaps less. Nivix rose with surprising grace despite her advancing pregnancy. We knew this day would come. We must face them together. When the joint delegation arrived, a tense coalition of human military officials and Lumidian elders, they found Ravik and Nivix waiting on the facility's landing pad, hands joined, their bodies illuminated by the patterns of their bond. General Harding emerged first, flanked by security personnel. Commander Orlov, Ambassador Nivix, by joint decree of Earth's United Council and the Lumidian Collective, you are ordered to return with us for observation and protection. Protection from what? Ravik asked. There are extremist factions who view your child as a threat to the purity of both our species, a Lumidian elder explained. 3 days ago, a terrorist cell attempted to access our genetic archives. Their intention was to develop a targeted pathogen that would terminate the hybrid pregnancy without harming either of you. Nivix's distress flowed through their bond, prompting the child within her to respond with pulses of agitation. Ravik instinctively strengthened their connection, creating a protective field of energy around the three of them. We won't be separated, he stated firmly, and we won't be studied like specimens. General Harding stepped forward. That's not our intention. Both our governments have come to recognize the significance of what's happening here. Your child represents the first true bridge between our species, biological proof that we are more compatible than anyone imagined possible. We are offering sanctuary, the Lumidian elder added, a neutral territory where your family can be protected while representatives from both our peoples learn from. Through their bond, Ravik and Nivix silently evaluated the proposal, feeling the child's response, a curious warmth that suggested acceptance. Take us there, Nivix finally said. But understand this. Our child will be born free to choose its own path between our worlds. As they boarded the transport, Ravik placed his hand over Nivix's abdomen, feeling 3 heartbeats synchronized in perfect harmony, a rhythm that might soon become the pulse of a new civilization. The sanctuary was a marvel of joint human-Lumidian engineering, a biosphere dome constructed on a man-made island in international waters. From above, it resembled a massive lotus flower, its transparent petals capturing sunlight during the day and starlight at night, providing the perfect balance of radiation spectrums for both species. 3 months had passed since their arrival, and Nivix's pregnancy had progressed to its final stage. The medical team, composed of the finest xenobiologists from both worlds, monitored the development with a mixture of scientific fascination and personal investment. Many had abandoned prestigious positions to be part of what they called the birth of a new evolutionary branch. Ravik stood at the edge of the meditation pool where Nivix floated, her body now luminous with intricate patterns. The neural bond had continued to transform them both. His skin had developed subtle crystalline structures beneath the surface, while her anatomy had incorporated more human-like vascular systems. The child is dreaming, Nivix said, her voice resonating with harmonic overtones that hadn't been present before. Would you like to join us? Through their bond, Ravik slipped into the shared consciousness they had established, a mental space where all three of them could connect directly. The child's mind was a kaleidoscope of sensations and proto-thoughts, more advanced than any human fetus, yet distinctly alien in its perception. Parents came the impression rather than actual words. Soon. Yes, Nivix confirmed, her inner eyes glowing with maternal pride. Very soon now. Dr. Mira Onse, the head of the medical team, approached with tablet in hand. The latest scans confirm what we suspected. The child has developed a dual cardiovascular system, one human-like heart and one crystalline Lumidian core. Respiratory, nervous, and digestive systems show similar hybridization. Will these systems be compatible? Ravik asked, the protective father surfacing through the scientist's curiosity. "They're more than compatible. They're synergistic," Dr. Onse replied. "The human cellular regeneration combined with Lumidian energy processing creates unprecedented physiological resilience. Theoretically, your child could survive in environments hostile to either parent species. Outside their protective sanctuary, the world continued to respond to their existence. The initial shock had given way to a complex global dialogue about the future of human-Lumidian relations. Philosophers debated the ethical implications while geneticists explored the scientific possibilities. Artists created works inspired by their bond, and ordinary citizens formed support communities celebrating interspecies unity. Not all reactions were positive. Extremist groups on both sides had grown more vocal, with some human factions declaring the hybrid child an existential threat to humanity's genetic purity. A smaller but equally fervent Lumidian sect viewed the merging of bloodlines as sacrilege against their evolutionary path. Security around the sanctuary had been doubled after intercepted communications revealed multiple plots to infiltrate the facility. What had begun as a personal connection between two individuals had become the focal point of humanity's greatest existential question. Would they remain isolated as a species, or embrace a future of genetic and cultural integration with their cosmic neighbors? On the 7th night of the 9th month it began. Ravik was awakened by a surge of energy through their bond. Nivix's waters had broken, initiating a birth process unlike any documented in either species' medical history. The medical team assembled as Nivix was moved to the specialized birthing chamber, a room where gravity, atmospheric composition, and light spectrums could be adjusted in real time to meet the evolving needs of mother and child. "The hybrid physiology is creating complications," Dr. Onse explained as monitors displayed critical readings. "The crystalline components are trying to phase shift while the organic systems are proceeding with conventional delivery." Ravik took Nivix's hands, their bond flaring with intensity as he channeled his strength into her. "What can I do?" "Strengthen the bond," Nivix gasped, her 4 eyes pulsing with effort. "The child needs both our patterns to navigate the transition." For 18 hours they remained connected, their consciousness merged more completely than ever before. Ravik experienced the birth as if it were happening to his own body, feeling every contraction, every shift in molecular structure, as the child moved between states of matter that defied conventional physics. The assembled medical team watched in awe as pulses of light synchronized between the three beings, creating geometric patterns in the air around them. Instruments recorded energy signatures that fluctuated between recognized quantum states, suggesting the child existed simultaneously in multiple dimensional planes. When the moment of birth finally came, a brilliant flash of light filled the EE chamber, temporarily overloading all electronic systems. In the silence that followed, a single cry echoed, not the wail of a human infant, but a harmonic tone that resonated at the exact frequency between human hearing and Lumidian sensory reception. Dr. Onse placed the newborn on Nivix's chest, her hands trembling with emotion. "It's perfect," she whispered. The child was unmistakably both human and Lumidian, yet wholly unique, skin with subtle crystalline facets that caught the light, eyes that were human in shape, but with the prismatic qualities of Nivix's people. 10 fingers, but with the elongated structure of Lumidian hands, a face that somehow captured the essence of both species while being entirely its own. Through their bond, Ravik and Nivix felt the child's consciousness fully awaken, complex, vibrant, and startlingly complete, as if it had been thinking and observing throughout its development. "I am here," came the clear impression, stronger now than ever before. "I am Lyra." The name, chosen by the child itself, echoed through their shared consciousness. Lyra, after the constellation visible from both Earth and the Lumidian homeworld. A bridge between stars, just as she was a bridge between species, as news of the successful birth spread throughout the facility. Dr. Onse organized the first official documentation. "For the records," she said, voice thick with emotion, "please state the child's full name." Ravik and Nivix exchanged a glance, feeling Lyra's presence guiding their response. Lyra Orlov-Nivix, they said in unison. First child of Earth and the stars. 1 year later, the sanctuary island had evolved from a secure medical facility into a thriving community, the first true human Lumidian settlement. What began as a protective measure for one unprecedented family had become a model for coexistence that both governments were cautiously beginning to implement elsewhere on Earth. Lyra's development had confounded all scientific predictions. At 12 months, she possessed the physical capabilities of a 5-year-old human child, combined with the sensory awareness of a young Lumidian. She spoke both languages fluently, transitioning effortlessly between human verbal communication and the Lumidian light pattern expressions. More remarkable was her ability to facilitate neural bonds between others. Under carefully controlled conditions, she had successfully initiated temporary connections between consenting human and Lumidian volunteers, not as deep as the bond her parents shared, but enough to create understanding that transcended conventional translation. Ravik watched from the garden as Lyra sat with a group of human and Lumidian children, teaching them to share simple thought patterns. Her skin glowed with subtle patterns as she guided their interactions, patient beyond her years. She's a natural diplomat, Nivik said, joining him. Their bond had continued to evolve, allowing them to function independently while maintaining their deep connection. Better than either of us ever were. She was born to bridge worlds, Ravik replied. Quite literally. Their peaceful moment was interrupted by an urgent communication from the sanctuary's security team. Commander Orlov, Ambassador Nivix, the officer reported. We've detected multiple approaching vessels, military class, running without identification. The attack they had long feared had finally arrived. Despite growing acceptance of their family's existence, the most radical opposition groups had united in their determination to eliminate what they viewed as an evolutionary threat. Initiate evacuation protocol, Ravik ordered, military training resurfacing. Get all non-essential personnel to the underwater transport stations. Nivix was already moving toward Lyra, gathering the children. Little ones, remember the special game we practiced? It's time to play for real. As alarms sounded throughout the sanctuary, Ravik and Nivix implemented the contingency plan they had developed for this scenario. The most vulnerable residents were quickly moved to submersible transports while security forces prepared defense. The attackers include both human and Lumidian extremists, the security chief reported. They've formed an alliance against what they're calling the hybridization threat. Ravik scanned the tactical display. They've coordinated their approach to block all standard evacuation routes. Through their bond, he felt Nivix's determination matching his own. They had both expected this day might come, had prepared for it, but the reality was still jarring. Their personal choice to save each other had escalated into a conflict that could determine the future relationship between their species. Lyra must be protected at all costs, Nivik said. Not just as our daughter, but as living proof that our peoples can truly unite. The first explosions rocked the sanctuary's outer defenses. Despite the joint military protection assigned to the facility, the attackers had somehow acquired advanced weapons technology. Breach alarms sounded as they penetrated the outer perimeter. In the central chamber, Ravik and Nivix found Lyra waiting calmly, her young face showing wisdom beyond her years. It's time, isn't it? She asked, her voice carrying harmonic undertones. For what you've been preparing me to do. Ravik knelt before his daughter, struck by the perfect fusion of his own features with Nivix's alien grace. Yes, little one. But are you certain you're ready? Instead of answering verbally, Lyra extended her consciousness through their family bond, showing them her complete understanding of the situation and her role in resolving it. She had known since before birth that she would face this moment. Her existence was both the source of conflict and its potential resolution. As the attackers breached the inner sanctuary, Lyra stepped forward, her small body beginning to emit pulses of light that expanded in concentric rings. The neural bond technology that had accidentally united her parents had evolved within her into something far more powerful, the ability to broadcast empathic connection across distance. Stay back, the leader of the human extremists shouted, raising a weapon. That creature is an abomination that will destroy humanity's genetic future. The hybrid corrupts the purity of the Lumidian evolutionary path, added his Lumidian counterpart. Both our species must remain distinct to fulfill our cosmic purpose. Lyra stood unafraid before them, her light growing stronger. You fear what? You don't understand, she said, her voice carrying the harmonic resonance that could penetrate both human and Lumidian sensory systems. Let me show you. Before either could respond, she released a focused pulse of neural bonding energy, not to control or harm, but to share. For a brief moment, every being in the chamber experienced the perspective of the others, humans feeling the crystalline thought patterns of Lumidians, Lumidians experiencing the emotional richness of human consciousness. The weapons clattered to the floor as the attackers staggered under the weight of sudden empathic connection. Where they had seen only threat and abomination, they now experienced the reality. Lyra was neither the end of either species nor a replacement for both, but the beginning of a new possibility that honored her dual heritage. She's magnificent, whispered one of the Lumidian attackers, crystalline tears forming at the corners of her eyes. As the temporary neural bond faded, the extremists found themselves unable to continue their mission. The leaders were taken into custody by security forces, but many of their followers requested asylum, transformed by their brief connection to Lyra's consciousness. News of the attempted attack and its unprecedented resolution spread quickly throughout both civilizations. Recordings of Lyra's empathic broadcast, though conveying only a fraction of its true impact, went viral across both human and Lumidian communication networks. In the days that followed, requests to visit the sanctuary increased exponentially. Political leaders who had hesitated to support the integration initiative now openly embraced the possibility of a shared future. Scientists who had doubted the viability of human-Lumidian genetic compatibility now clamored to study Lyra's unique physiology with appropriate ethical boundaries her parents insisted upon. 6 months after the attack on the observation deck of the newly expanded sanctuary, Ravik and Nivix stood with Lyra between them, watching as the first official joint colony ships prepared for launch. Hundreds of human Lumidian couples, inspired by their story, had volunteered to establish permanent settlements on planets specifically chosen for their ability to support both species. They're calling it the Lyra Initiative, Ravik said, feeling pride flow through their family bond. The first intentional blending of our civilizations. Nivix's 4 eyes shimmered with emotion. When I crashed on your planet, I feared I would die among strangers. Instead, I found a new beginning for both our peoples. Lyra, now nearly the size of a human 7-year-old, placed her hands in theirs. Where their skin touched, light bloomed, the visual manifestation of a connection that had forever changed the course of 2 civilizations. This is just the beginning, Lyra said, her voice carrying the wisdom of both ancestral lineages. The universe has been waiting for us to recognize what we can become together. As the colony ships rose into the evening sky, trailing light against the darkening blue, human and Lumidian alike felt the promise of a future neither species could have achieved alone. What had begun as a simple act of compassion, a human caring for an alien's wounds, had created the first child of 2 worlds and opened a path to the stars that neither would walk alone again. In the growing twilight, Ravik embraced his family, marveling at how the most profound changes in history could begin with the simplest acts of care. His daughter, the impossible child who carried his legacy alongside an alien heritage, would lead both their peoples into a future brighter than either had imagined possible, and it had all begun with one choice: to save a life different from his own.